Hi, I'm Bud.
And I'm Renee.
On this stop, we're going to visit Wildcat Den State Park.
We're going to hike a couple trails and visit Pine Creek Grist Mill.
We're going to drive on the Convict Road.
And we're going to walk across this 262-foot swinging bridge.
So come along with us as we explore Eden.
We're all packed up and we're ready to roll. We got 6 more hours to the next time zone. All of the God-given wonders we'll see. Hiking the trails with you beside me. There's nothing I'd rather do than explore Eden with you.
On this stop, we've set up camp at Shady Creek Recreation Area. Shady Creek is a Corps of Engineers campground on the Mississippi River in southeast Iowa. The campground has 53 concrete sites, all with 50 amp electrical service. Water is available throughout the campground. The shower house is clean. There is a dump station, 2 playgrounds, and a boat ramp. Sites cost $14 to $26 per night. The campground is maintained well. There is plenty of room between sites. The sites are level and have a large concrete pad with a picnic table and a fire pit. Our first stop on this trip is Wildcat Den State Park. The park is less than 3 miles from the campground. First, we're going to check out Pine Creek Grist Mill. The grist mill sits just a few hundred yards from the parking lot. Built in 1848, the mill is the oldest working mill in its original location between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. Benjamin Nye would be one of the first official residents in this area after the area was opened up to European American settlement in 1833. He would build a wood sawmill, 3 grist mills, a 2-story home, and a post office with a general store. The address for the post office was Iowa Post Office, Black Hawk Purchase, Wisconsin Territory. You can tour all 4 floors, which are a museum of the range of milling processes that were used between the years 1848 and 1929.
Did you hear she said the belt is a kilter, and the guy that does the belt broke his pelvis, so they're just setting.
The mill is powered by a 20 horsepower water turbine. In 1878, a 60 horsepower steam engine was added as a backup for when the water levels were low. The mill originally produced flour from wheat. A second milling plant was added to mill corn, and a 36-inch set of grinding stones were added to produce buckwheat flour. The building was built of native oak beams cut at Benjamin Nye's sawmill. It utilizes mortise and tenon joints connected with wood pegs. Benjamin Nye was not a timid man when it came to protecting his property. He had a violent confrontation with Major William Gordon, a West Point graduate. Both men pulled knives and seriously wounded the other. It was feared both would die. The two of them survived and were charged with attempted murder. Each of them hired the same lawyer. He was able to get both men acquitted on grounds of self-defense. Pine Creek Grist Mill, along with Pine Creek Bridge, are both listed on the National Register of Historic Places. In 1878, the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors approved a bridge crossing at Pine Creek Grist Mill. The bridge was ordered out of the Wrought Iron Bridge Company catalog, and a contractor hired to construct the stone abutment. The bridge components delivered to the nearest train station and were bolted together at the site. The bridge design was called a Pratt-through truss. They were cost-effective and could be assembled in 1 to 2 weeks. Thousands of these bridges were built, and many are still in use today. Just a short walk from Pine Creek Grist Mill is Melpine Country School. The school was moved within the park and completely restored to its 1920 appearance. Iowa law required a country school be built within 2 miles of each student. Thus, each county was dotted with these small one-room schools. All grades were taught by a single teacher. Inside are desks, books, and teachers' aides, just as they were used in the past. Unfortunately, the school was not open during the day of our visit. The park's website states the dates and times the school is open. I'll post the website in the video description below. Just south of the mill parking lot is an 1850s cabin. A neighbor tore down an outbuilding and found the cabin hidden under the siding. The cabin and the ground it sits on were donated to the park. Further south of the cabin is the Nye family cemetery. Benjamin and his wife, Azuba, had 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. 2 of the boys would die before reaching the age of 1. Their daughter Harriet married George McCoy, and they had 4 children. In 1849, McCoy left his family in Iowa and went to California during the gold rush. When he returned 2 years later, he found Harriet with an infant in her arms. He filed for divorce and was granted custody of his 4 children. McCoy went to Benjamin Nye's home, where Harriet was residing, gathered the 4 kids, and left in his wagon. Nye and his other son-in-law, Robert Patterson, would chase after McCoy and caught him about 1.5 miles down the road. McCoy set the wagon's brake, tied off the reins, and stepped from the wagon with his pistol at hand. Nye walked toward McCoy with a club. McCoy fired 2 warning shots. Reluctant to shoot his ex-father-in-law, McCoy waited too long, and Nye struck him, knocking the pistol from his hand to the ground. Robert Patterson would attempt to restrain his father-in-law and have his collarbone broken. McCoy pulled his Bowie knife, and after a missed swing, he lunged and fatally stabbed his ex-father-in-law. Benjamin Nye, at the age of 56, would die in this location in front of his 4 grandchildren. George McCoy would be charged with murder and found not guilty on grounds of self-defense. He would take his 4 children by wagon to California, found the town of Antioch, become a prominent citizen, businessman, and justice of the peace, and he never remarried. Robert Patterson would recover from his injury and manage his deceased father-in-law's businesses. He would buy Pine Creek Grist Mill in 1853 and own it until his death in 1863. Wildcat Den State Park encompasses 417 acres. It has 7 designated trails covering 4 miles. We're starting this hike from the Punch Bowl Trailhead.
Okay, so we should be coming up to Punch Bowl here. At the trailhead, Renee sprayed herself with one form of bug spray and me with another. I believe mine was a placebo, just to see how well hers worked. At the low point of the trail, small flies were everywhere. No mosquitoes, just the flies. Wow, they're terrible on you.
At this point, Renee concluded her experiment and gave me the real stuff. The Devil's Punch Bowl was formed by water erosion, and in the springtime has water that flows over its edge. Wildcat Den has primitive campsites with water and vault toilets. There is no electrical service or showers. We're going to start our next hike from the lower picnic area. A portion of this trail follows Pine Creek, upstream from the grist mill. Along this section of the trail, the sandstone bluffs can reach 75 feet. This area of the trail is known as Fat Man Squeeze. The cave trail was closed for repairs during our visit. We're going to head back to the campground, relax for a little bit, and then go get a bite to eat. We're going to Wilton, Iowa to grab a late lunch. Wilton is less than 25 minutes from the campground. The town was founded in 1855 as Wilton Junction. It has a population of 2,900. The town has a Veterans Remembrance Area with the names of local veterans going back to the Civil War. The Muscatine County Freedom Rock was painted by Ray Bubba Swanson. The official dedication was September 6th of 2020. Mr. Swanson painted the first Freedom Rock, a 60-ton boulder, in 1999. He has since put a smaller, more unique to the area Freedom Rock in all of Iowa's 99 counties. Costs for the Freedom Rocks are covered by donations. I'll put a link to the Freedom Rock project in the video description below. The Wilton, Iowa train depot was first built in 1855 in an area called Wilton Junction. The current depot was built in 1898. Founded in 1860, the Candy Kitchen in Wilton, Iowa, is the oldest continually operating ice cream soda parlor in the world. The building was built in 1856, shortly after the original railroad depot. It is the oldest building in Wilton, Iowa. The marble soda fountain counter was installed in 1927, and the original Tufts soda fountain was updated in 1951. There is a room in the back dedicated to the history of the Candy Kitchen, the town of Wilton, and the railroad. If you're ever in this area, stop in and you'll find out why they've been serving ice cream in this store for over 160 years. During our stay, we drove to Columbus Junction and made a few stops along the way. Our first stop was in Letts, Iowa, to pay our respects to William Reddick. Reddick was one of 19 men that went 200 miles behind the Confederate lines in 1862 to destroy bridges and train tracks. They stole a train, and the raid became known as the Great Locomotive Chase. Reddick would be captured and be released a year later in a prisoner exchange. Reddick and 5 other raid members were the first recipients of the Medal of Honor. The next stop on our drive is Convict Road. Convict Road was built in 1914. It is one of the first concrete roads built in a rural area in the U.S. and is one of the oldest concrete roads still in use in its original condition remaining in the nation. A wagon bridge crossed the Iowa River west of Fredonia, Iowa, but the sand banks east of the river made the road impassable most of the year. The road was paid for by local government, and men from the Anamosa Men's Reformatory were used to build it. The road is 16 feet wide, narrow by today's standards, and 1.5 miles long. It is 8 inches thick in the center and 6 inches thick on the edges. It costs $9,983.12 per mile, an astronomical amount for 1914. Because of the cost, locals thought it would be the last piece of concrete road built in Louisa County. Cross over the Iowa River and you're in Columbus Junction, Iowa. Columbus Junction is a small town with a population of around 1,800. The town has a few unique road names, and the Chickapin Bluffs Recreation Area is on the south side of town with over 6 miles of hiking trails. But the reason for our stop is to visit the Swinging Bridge. The first bridge was built in 1886. It was made of barrel staves and wire. The bridge was condemned in 1902. It collapsed in 1920 with 2 brothers on it. Miraculously, neither were injured. The bridge was rebuilt in 1922 to its current length of 262 feet. The original 1880s bridge was the idea of Josiah Stewart, who wanted a shortcut around Lover's Leap Ravine. At the middle of the bridge, you're near the treetops, and although the current bridge is safe, you may be thinking of the 1920 collapse as the cables creak while the bridge swings under your feet. Hike Possum Hollow Trail if you want to get a view of the bridge from below. On the west side of the bridge is a monarch garden with several benches where you can sit back and relax. It's time for us to cross the bridge one last time and get back on the road. We've enjoyed our stay at Shady Creek Recreation Area. The campground is well maintained and in a picturesque area. There is a lot of history and fun trails at Wildcat Den State Park. Wilton, Iowa was a surprise stop with a nice Veterans Memorial area, railroad station, and great ice cream. We paid our respects to William Reddick, one of the first Medal of Honor recipients, drove the 110-year-old Convict Road, and slowly made our way over the Swinging Bridge. Until the next one, take care of yourself and those around you, and get out there and explore Eden.